All right, so we're up to way number 44, which is Shoel Umeshiv, which actually means asking and answering, but at its core it means analyzing the issues. Famous question. Why do Jews always answer a question with a question? The answer to which, of course, is how should they answer? Right? The importance of a good question is ingrained in Jewish consciousness since ancient times. Standing at the burning bush, right? Moshe questions why the bush is not being consumed by fire, right? The Seder is centered around the four questions. Any yeshiva student, right? The greatest yeshiva student is the one who can stump the rabbi with this question. So number 44, Shoel Umeshiv, literally means asking and answering, which is to master the art of asking questions and analyzing issues. It takes hard work and patience to ask the right questions and gain a full understanding. So thinking for yourself, drawing your own conclusions, and not simply relying on outside opinions and assumptions is essential for living with clarity and conviction. So number one of this is to start with the basics. The basic questions of what, why, and how can be applied to virtually everything in life. So number one is the what, which is to define things. What's the issue? Before you argue about a topic, define your terms. We learned about this in number 2, Shmiras HaOzen, right? So number 2 of this is to deliberate. So define and then deliberate. Why is this important to me? Why do I care? What are the consequences of this idea and the result of my analysis? And then number 3 is to apply. So we've got define, we've got deliberate, we've got apply, which is what, why, and how. How do I use this and integrate it into my life? What am I going to do about it once I get the knowledge? So get into the habit of always asking the what and the why and the how, and you'll begin to take issues to their core and ultimately figure out how to apply them in your life. Number 2 of this is to look for inconsistencies. So you have to open your mind and your eyes to the irregularities and the inconsistencies of life. Don't be passive. If you see a contradiction, point it out. Unearthing those contradictions opens a window to greater understanding. Be sensitive to that window. For example, why is it that modern technology has created the most connectivity ever, and yet people feel more distant than they ever have before, right? Why is it that if people feel that a balanced life is really important, most people spend the vast majority of their time pursuing career goals as opposed to family? So people kind of get annoyed when you start asking questions and analyze things to pieces, but don't be deterred. There's a Jewish saying, nobody ever died from a question, from a kasha starbt man nicht. Nobody ever died from a question. Now that has 2 components. One is nobody ever died from a question, meaning if you don't get an answer, you can still live. But it also means that nobody ever died from asking the question. There's nothing noble about remaining silent and yet ignorant. So questioning also protects you from being susceptible to all kinds of manipulations. Don't blindly accept what the media tells you or what outside sources tell you. Think it through for yourself, ask your questions, and then draw your own conclusions. Number 3 is track down unanswered questions. So we all have many unanswered questions, and although they may seem below the surface and harmless, those questions can subtly undermine our confidence and create nagging doubts that seep into the foundations of our beliefs. So for instance, how do I know that Hashem exists and that He gave us the Torah? How can I fulfill my potential? If Hashem really controls everything, do I have free will? Right? How can I avoid doing the same mistakes over again? So there's a part of us that comes out when we ask some of these bigger questions and says, there are no answers, right? And that's a comfort technique. It's an ostrich technique. It's sticking your head in the sand. The point of asking these questions is to work on discovering the answers. Getting clarity is a long, tough haul, but that's part of the thrill of living. So number 4 is to take this concept and use it for questions for life. So apply your questioning to areas of living. For example, you're getting married. What is marriage? Right? A lot of us have the idea of marriage as being something from a Hollywood script, right? Meet cute, spend a couple of dates, live happily ever after. Right? Marriage is hard work. Analyze various life issues that you're facing, parenting, personal growth, relationship with Hashem, global issues like anti-Semitism or nuclear Iran or whatever it may be, and start formulating questions. And by formulating questions, you're taking the first steps towards true understanding. So a couple of ideas for applied wisdom on this. One, get into the habit of asking the primary questions, which is what, why, and how do I apply it? And then two is take some question that surrounds some big issue that bothers you and do the hard work of analyzing it.